Hey everyone, welcome to the Authority Hacker Podcast. This is a really compressed version of the podcast. It's going to be a 10-minute episode. I got tired of asking Mark how it's going, so we decided to just fight each other on debates on the podcast. We're going to have one a day. And if you like this format, you can go on YouTube and drop us a comment below so that we know if you like this format. If not, we'll go back to the old one, so it's up to you. And also you can subscribe, obviously, and you can subscribe on the audio platforms. And today we are going to be talking about branding for your authority site. Is it worth it? How should you do it? Etc. In my opinion, I mean, Mark knows it. I like designing brands, etc. I enjoy it actually. Worked a lot on the latest Authority Hacker branding. Actually, if you haven't seen it yet, go check authorityhacker.com. But I think there's a lot of kind of like small effects. It's kind of like 1% effects on pretty much every activity you do if you brand your website. And I'll give you some examples, right? So if you're ranking for info queries, for example, let's say, I don't know, on Authority Hacker, we're ranking, let's say, for like fastest WordPress theme. If the page looks really cool and branded, etc., the chances of someone quoting our article in their article and linking back to it is higher. Now, for one article, doesn't make much of a difference. But when you have a site with 1,000 articles or something like that, there is real passive link building happening. And the better your site looks and the more professional it looks, the more likely people are to quote you, and actually your number of links and your authority is going to increase over time as just a passive effect of your branding. So that's the first reason I like branding. The second one is that it will improve conversions as well. If people feel that you're a professional site, that you're doing things properly, that you're not on the default WordPress theme when you're recommending your products to an affiliate link, for example, people are much more likely to take it seriously. And even if maybe the number of clicks on the buttons is the same, what might happen is your conversion rate might go higher up. And we've seen that on some sites, it works really well. People just, it's kind of like people trust the form more than what you write sometimes. You could take trash content and actually put it really well formatted, really well branded, and I'm pretty sure people would share it. We have established in our headline article that people share 60% of social shares are based only on the headline and people don't read the articles. So I think that is a good argument for that. And then people check the headline and look at the whole website. If it looks good, they're more likely to share it, etc., and link to it. And if not, then no. And regardless of what you wrote and how well researched your content is. I think it also helps you active link building. You are outreaching to websites so that they link to your website. And again, these people don't spend hours reading every single word on your post. That's what you think they're doing, but they're not doing that. They're just opening it quickly, skimming through the main headlines, the H2s maybe, reading the headline, looking at how it looks, maybe if you have some cool images and stuff like that, which is part of branding, and they decide to link to you or not. And then the branding is a huge part of that, and they will decide to link to you based on how your site looks. And I think
random point just to add, it's also why it's a really good idea to turn off any display ads you have on a page you're actively doing link building for while that outreach campaign is going on.
Yeah, I agree. We do that. We have a no ads tag actually for that, and we also get pop-ups. And I think the last thing it does, for me at least, is it boosts my ego and it makes me want to do better for that site. If I actually open the pages and it looks cool and it's a cool site, it makes me want, like, I don't want to post trash content on that site. I've spent so much, like, it looks really cool. I spent so much on the branding, and I know it's great, and I'm proud of it. And it's going to make me want to do a better job than if I have a trash site that is built on default GeneratePress. And so it actually manages myself and builds my motivation, which is a huge thing in site building, like the inner game of that, basically. So that is basically why I like branding. Now I'm going to give you some quick tips on how you can do that. It's very simple. If you want to do basic branding, and we teach that in TAS, is you need brand colors first. We recommend a tool called colors.co that allows you to build a color palette really, really easily. It's really cool. One of my favorite tools. Go and check it out. It's free. All the tools are free.
COOLORS.co for anyone who doesn't understand Gael's accent.
That's most people. Then you need fonts, and then you need to pick a font pairing usually. So you can either use all the same font, which is what we do on Authority Hacker. We use a font called Proxima Nova, or you can actually pick a pair of fonts, a different font for the headings and for the body of text. There is a site that does the same, allows you to put a font pair together called fontjoy.com, FONTJOY.com. And then you need a logo that uses your fonts and your colors. And then these days we tend to use Canva. They have a cool logo generator in there. And actually, if you use the premium version at $12.95, I think if you pay monthly, you can pick from 60 million stock graphics that you can use for your logo as well. I did some tests. I created some logos this week. It was really good. And actually, Canva is also really good for branding. They allow you to import your font colors, your brand colors, and your brand fonts, and they just use it in every image you create. And the last thing I like to do is have the same image treatment for a brand. So maybe have a saturation setting, maybe like reduce saturation or reduce contrast. Maybe it's like half black and white, the colors are muted, etc. Kind of like what Instagrammers do with their images. Something like that will allow you to put that on all your imagery and actually create a style and a mood to your website, so that when an image is shared on social, etc., people will recognize it. So that's
it's a real subtle effect, but it makes all your images seem very consistent when you do that.
Yeah, and like your featured images for posts and post grids, etc., like your social posts, they all look the same, and people recognize it without even reading the text. You don't have to put text on your images, for example, and they know it's you. So it's really powerful, and that's basically how you create basic branding. Go ahead.
But can we not just outsource this all to a designer?
Well, if you want me to tell the story of what happened to a Authority Hacker, for example, that we just reported, we did outsource it to a designer.
Sure, but designers can't all be terrible. I think maybe the common denominator was us rather than the design. Every designer we used was bad.
I think you can outsource it, but I think it's not worth the price initially. Like branding is quite expensive if you hire good designers. It's gonna cost you a few $1,000s at least. And I think if you're starting a site, I'd rather put this money towards content. And I think the tools I shared that are all free, etc., do a good enough job at this branding. So it's kind of the 80-20 of branding, and you can at least get a first version of your branding, then get some traction, then can refine your branding, and you're going to save a lot of money that you can put somewhere else. So I believe you can outsource it, but also it's pretty fast and easy once you get the mood of branding. It's basically a day. Like I think in a day you can do something decent.
I mean, you mentioned that's the 80-20. Like I am completely inept at design. I don't think I could do that in a day. I think it would take me a lot longer. And I still don't think it would be very good even with those tools. So, is it still worth, do you think I should do that if I'm starting a new site?
We should try. Maybe when we do a site, I'm going to make you do the branding, actually. I'm not going to do it this time. I'll give you the tools, and then I'll be like, go ahead, show me what you have tonight or something. But I believe that you can do good enough, because these things, for example, coolers, right? What they do is you pick, basically what it does, it shows you like 5 colors, I think, initially, and you just press your spacebar, it just changes the colors, right? And when you find a color you like, you can press a lock, and it locks it. And what it does, it looks for complementary colors using chromatic circle rules, etc., based on that. And so you can make bad choices, but it's helping prevent bad choices. Same with the font pair stuff. They will give you font pairs that go together, so they give you a serif and sans serif, etc. And a lot of designer rules will be baked in all these tools. And so even if you're pretty terrible, I'm not saying you can't do a bad job. I'm sure someone's going to send me a terrible job. But they also, for example, have pre-made color palettes that you can literally just take, you can just take them and use them, for example. So yes. But at the same time, if you take from the pre-made color palettes, it's as if you had a designer send you a bunch of color palettes and you just pick from there, which is exactly what you would pay for.
Here's another question then. At what point is it worth doing all this branding work? Wouldn't it make more sense to actually start deploying content on a new site, so the site is up and it starts aging? Can we not just use the basic WordPress theme and a text logo for that?
So I like the idea of attributing a day to branding because of all the passive effects. Like as I said, the passive.
But can that day not just be a little bit later, after 2 months?
I mean, if you do just the content and you're not promoting your site and you're not getting any traffic, sure, you can do it at any point. Basically, if people are not visiting your site, it doesn't matter. But from the moment people start visiting your site, you essentially get this 0.1% improvements from good branding. So you're losing that initial traction. Every day you don't have okay branding applied to your website. So I like the idea of being you know what? Whatever I get at the end of this day, this is my branding until this site makes 5 figures a month or something, maybe, and then you can revise it,
Last question. So I don't really have much of an eye for design, but I know quite a bit of about websites. So I can sometimes give feedback on a design, whether it looks good or not. If someone's starting a site for the first time and they don't have any online marketer or designer friends, like how do they know that using all these free tools, the design they've made is any good? They just ask their mom, or like, is there a process for that?
Go on the Facebook group and post it there and ask people. Like for designers, like you can don't go to a marketer group because they will copy your site. Go to a designer group on Facebook and post your site and ask for feedback. And I think you get good feedback from there.
I always feel though sometimes with designers especially, like you ask 7 different people what they think of.
They all have a different opinion.
You get 7 different opinions. Like how do you know if it's good or not?
Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So it's kind of like it's like there is a degree of personal interpretation on what you like and what you don't like. I personally like looking at the biggest competitors in my niche and assume that they have tried more things than I have, and try to take the main lessons they have from their web design. Things like font size, for example, is quite important. They might have tested that, and they might have font. Like for all the people, if the audience is older people, you need bigger fonts, for example, stuff like that. So there's these kind of like lessons that I like to take from my competitors, and I think if you take a mix of your competitors plus you apply branding from these sites and kind of like usually they have all design and refresh it, I think you can do, and then you get feedback for free on Facebook groups from designers and kind of like mix all of that together. You can do an okay job. Obviously, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? The first version of your design, as I said, like it's just something I want to be happy with that in a day, and then when the site makes good money, then we can talk about proper rebranding, etc. So don't expect it to be perfect. It's your perfectionism that's talking right now. I'm much better at this, at just shipping whatever I have and just making it happen. And I think that's why it's working. So that's basically it. But like, I think it's still worth spending a day on it. I don't think you should spend more. I think you should spend a day on it, use these tools, and then put better branding than no branding together, you know, and using Comics and MS as your main font. So that's basically it for this podcast, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can subscribe on YouTube, you can give us a thumb up, and you can drop us a comment to tell us if you enjoyed this format. Otherwise, we can go back to the old format if the audience prefers that one. We are on the audio platforms as well, and we'll see you tomorrow for another episode. Have a good day. Bye.